Hello there.
Hello, Matthew. What's happening? What's going
Oh,
on with you?
I almost didn't make it to the show tonight.
Well, what happened? What's the story behind that?
I took a nap this afternoon.
Yeah,
And I took one of those naps. You ever have one of those naps where you wake up and you're like, everything in my
yeah.
veins is lead,
You just wrecked
and
yourself.
I will never get up again.
Never nap. Like it's gonna ruin your day.
Yeah. But I really needed a nap. I had a really, really busy, exciting week. Uh, and it tired me out.
Um, Tell us about some of the excitement that you had. I mean,
Uh,
the nap is great, but
the nap was great. Well, Thursday, we toured a warehouse and found the warehouse that we're going to use for our stuff. That was actually really exciting.
oh, fantastic.
We toured a bottling company
Uh huh.
on Friday that we may be working with. We're hoping. We liked them a lot. We have to have a few more conversations with them. And I spent about I'd say 20 hours emailing and researching bottle suppliers. That was not exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Another 10 or 12 hours working on a PowerPoint presentation for our investors. That was not exciting, but it's getting there. Um, it takes a lot of dedication to bring a booze to the market, and we're going to do it, damn it. We're getting there.
It's very exciting.
Um,
Um,
that was my week. That
well,
was
that
my
is it's. I mean, when what's the timeline? When do you think? Has anyone said like an estimate of when you might be able to go to a bar and
and get this?
yeah.
Well, we start doing rehearsals of our investor pitch right after Thanksgiving. And we've got several of those, several little mini events where we're having friends and friends who are business type people who
Yeah,
can give us
fancy friends,
fancy friends,
not just
um,
riffraff
not
friends.
riffraff friends, who can give us feedback on our investor pitch. And then we're going to hit the pause button for the holidays because we're not going to be able to get investors to come to meetings in the ramp up to Christmas. And then in January, after the new year, we start actually pitching investors. And we're feeling pretty good about the people we have lined up. We're hoping that we have all of our money by the end of February. And if we do that, we will be able to pull the trigger and actually start bottling stuff. Um, the actually, you know all about the global supply chain breakdown in glass goods,
Oh,
right?
I know
Yeah,
all about it.
you've
Yeah,
been following that
yeah, it's in my feed.
yeah. Um, that's actually what we're dealing with now is that if we need bottles in 4 months, we may have to order them now. I mean, there is for some reason a huge break in the supply chain of bottles, something I did not know about. Everything else we can get in a matter of weeks. Our everything else we need to put the product on shelves.
Right.
Um, but so we are hopeful that around April or May, bottles will be rolling off the production line.
All
But
right.
I'm going to see you every week between now and then. I'm going to keep you more updated than you want.
Well, yeah, this is partially for our guests who may stop in and out of the show and you
Right.
know not have weekly updates, not know
Yes.
exactly what's going on. That's very exciting.
But I didn't get to really watch anything this week of note, so I don't have anything interesting to say
Mm.
in the filmic world other than the movie that we're going to be discussing. What about you? How was your week?
Um, my week was good. It was busy. I have some good news today. Could finally share some good news.
Yeah, about
Um,
Sender?
my movie finally dropped on Amazon today.
That is so exciting.
So yeah, I totally surprised. They was supposed to have dropped a couple weeks ago, but there's like I think the bottle supply chain. There's some issues uploading stuff at Amazon. They have a lot of shortages or something. So
Well, they send out a lot of messages in bottles, so
I
they
guess
ran out.
it coincides.
Yeah.
So I've been checking, but there was no way to find out, what was going on. Really, I couldn't call Amazon, and the distributor didn't know what was going on. So
And Jeff wasn't returning your calls?
no, no. But he was very far away. He was in space for a lot of that. So
He says he was only in space for about 11 minutes, actually.
no, yeah, but even in that plane is just. It was very hard to get in touch with him. I just found it. He's usually a lot easier for me to get a hold of.
Yeah. Bet Bowles says, yeah, try getting a liter of Jameson's.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not easy. But keep bringing Jameson's up, Bet. Maybe if we talk about it enough, they'll become one of our sponsors, and then we're on easy street.
That would be good.
That is so exciting. Your movie is out there.
Yeah, it came out.
Okay, and it is called.
The movie is called Sender.
And it is available on.
It's available on Amazon.
And all of our listeners should go watch it.
Sure.
I'm feeding you stuff, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people can go check it out. They can rent it. It's not on Amazon Prime yet. That might happen a little later on. I don't know. But right now it's rentable, and you can see the trailer, and it's there. It's weird, because I've been sitting here in lockdown, and I've been on watching Amazon every night, pretty much on. It's one of the things I look at, and then suddenly turn it on today and see that a movie I directed was also on there. It was
movie that you directed is out there in public.
Yeah.
That is.
It's been a long time coming. We waited a long time.
Well, that's a mic drop right there. That's our show, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in.
This was the first official announcement. In fact,
that's all we need to talk about tonight.
And yeah, we're really excited. My producer and friend Michael, we made the movie together. We've been through. It's been these making a small indie movie is just. It's a lot of work. You're doing it all yourself, and it's been several years of intense, laborious, heartbreaking work, and it's pretty gratifying to see it. That it's not in a movie theater, but it's it's still cool. To see up there.
Movie theater. I don't go to movie theaters anymore.
And my Amelia, my wife. Who you've met Amelia.
I've met. I did. I met her.
She's in it. She has a great role in it. She's incredible in the movie.
She's fantastic in it.
So I'm excited.
Joe Erla. Let's give some shout outs.
Joe Erla and
Jim Conroy,
Maddie Blake.
Maddie Blake.
I do P for P with rated P for Paranormal.
Chuck Montgomery.
It's a great group of people, and it's been many years trying to see this thing through. So it's pretty gratifying.
That is spectacular. Oh my gosh.
Thank you.
Wow.
So I was having a pretty average week until earlier this afternoon, and then I just was kind of I've just been in shock.
And you're going out after the show tonight. You're going out clubbing, right?
Yes. Well, I have to oversee the club. I mean, it's my club. I have to go see how they're doing. Make sure everything's running well. It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. Oh my gosh. Wow. So exciting. So tonight, I guess our cage fight continues.
Yeah, it's still going on here. Yeah.
There we go. Although it might be a little different tonight.
I'm curious. I'm very curious because Snake Eyes didn't go exactly the way I had thought it was gonna go.
I think some of this may go a little more your way.
Okay. You don't know what my way is, though.
Oh, that's true. I don't know what your way is. I have a sneaking suspicion, though.
You do? Okay.
But tonight's movie, 1997's Face Off, or Face Off.
It's said many different kinds of ways, actually, in the movie.
Yeah,
It's like
I think the title though. I say the title "Face Off."
that's how you say it.
Yeah, and John Woo wanted that slash, the forward slash in it, even though the studio didn't want it because he didn't want people to think it was a hockey movie. There you go, and that's our show.
I'm okay. I'm a little baffled. Why did John Woo think that that would make people think it was a hockey movie?
Well, because a face-off is a thing in hockey,
Oh,
a face-off where they drop the puck and they
oh, I didn't know that. Okay,
yeah
I'm clearly a sports enthusiast. I hope Matty Blake is watching this because he is now laughing at me so hard because he knows that I like hockey. That's like one of the only things I do like
right
in sports.
because
I don't know
because
anything
there are
about it.
fights
Yeah,
because
there's
it's like a
fighting.
boxing match.
It's an honest sport.
Yeah,
It's true aggression on the
that's
playing
right.
field.
Exactly.
I didn't. I thought face off just meant that you were, facing your opponent in any type of scenario. I didn't know.
It does mean that, but
So I'm
it
not
is
completely insane.
no, you're not.
Okay.
Well, you are completely insane, but it has nothing to do with this particular prompt.
There's caveats to that.
Yeah. But why don't you tell us a little bit about what this movie's about?
This movie is,
Aside from being about 220 minutes long,
yes, it's a little longer than maybe it needs
or
to be.
2 hours and 20 minutes, not 220 minutes long.
No, it's not. It's not a German film. Face Off is an action thriller directed by the great John Woo, who at the time was kind of the gold standard of action filmmaking. He was the top action filmmaker, and really kind of, if you don't know his stuff, if you know Michael Bay, this is the beginning of the Bay. This is where Bay got all his moves, and it's arguably better. And it's about a police detective played by John Travolta named Sean Archer, who in the very beginning of the film, his young son, is tragically killed by his arch nemesis, terrorist Castor Troy, played by
He's actually not a police detective. He's a top FBI anti-terrorist unit.
Great. Okay, so he's a cop, and he's
Screw you, older brother, with your nitpicking your espionage bullshit.
he's a cop, and his Moriarty, his nemesis, is played by Nicolas Cage. This guy Castor Troy, who tries to assassinate John Travolta, but misses, and instead kills his young son. And this is tragic, of course, and Travolta, keeps working at the agency, the FBI. I think you said he worked for the FBI. Yep. And he keeps going after Castor Troy, the man who killed his son, and they get him.
He doesn't even miss. He gets Travolta, but the bullet goes right through him.
It does. It goes through him and kills his own son. Kills his son. And so there's a big chase. They get the whereabouts of Castor Troy. There's a big chase, and in that chase, in that fight scene, they think they've killed Castor Troy. He's in a coma. He's not coming back. They're worried about that because they find out that Castor Troy and his nefarious little brother, played by,
so like the thing you and I have going on.
Yeah, it's very much like our relationship.
Yeah.
Alessandro Nivola plays Castor Troy's younger brother,
Pollux.
who's kind of the sorry,
Pollux
Troy, and John Travolta finds out that they have, unbeknownst to him, planted a nuclear and viral bomb somewhere in Los Angeles that's threatening to go off at any time, and they have to find out where. Right. Well, how do they do that?
Never mind that when the nuclear bomb goes off, it would kill the virus, but we won't talk about that.
That's a really, really good point. That's a very good point. If you're looking for logic and some kind of even just the logic of any physics at all, this isn't the movie you want to watch.
No,
So what do you do in a situation like this?
I know what I would do.
You take the dead man's face
I
and you
would
put it on.
slap it on my face and go talk to his brother. That's
And
what
you
I
get
would
to
do.
right, so you infiltrate his group by pretending to be Nicolas Cage,
And go to prison.
and you go to prison where he'd be sent. So they do a simple Team America surgery
Very simple.
and take off. They switch their faces. They take their faces off, and they put them on the other actor.
Yeah. Except they don't actually put it on Nick Cage. They just put Travolta's face in stasis.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm trying to encapsulate this so we don't, everybody.
Okay.
You know.
Well, I want to ruin the whole movie because there's some shots. They do some stuff with that. Yeah.
But this is the premise. This is the idea. This is the premise.
Okay.
Nick Cage eventually wakes up out of his coma and has no face, and then he takes Travolta's face and he puts Travolta's face on him.
His face on.
And then he goes to Travolta's house, and he starts like hanging out with his wife. It's really creepy and weird.
Hanging out, and for those of you listening on the podcast, I'm doing air quotes.
Mm-hmm.
He hangs out with Joan Allen.
Well, we don't see anything. We don't see anything untoward.
But
worse than that, he gets a little bit weird with the Travolta's daughter, his teenage daughter, which is not good.
No,
very uncomfortable part of the movie, and
particularly for those of us who have teenage daughters.
Well, okay, I can't speak to that. I know you do. It must have been really hard for you to deal with that, but at any rate, the movie must go on.
Yes.
What will happen? What will happen to them? Is the question.
Okay. Well, there's some stuff in this movie that I just love.
Okay, great. So we found we found a sweet spot.
Yeah. I had some trouble at the beginning. And then I stopped myself. I sat myself down and I said, "Hey, schmucko, this is a cross between an opera and a comic book. Just sit back and enjoy yourself, dude."
Yeah.
And the minute I said that to myself, I had a phenomenal time.
Yeah, you have to just accept it and go.
And it did not feel like 2 hours and 20 minutes.
That's great.
It flew by.
And had you seen a lot of John Woo movies?
No, not a lot of them. No.
Okay. But you kind of knew what you were in for.
I knew what I was in for. Yeah. Starting out with that sort of hyper stylized dreamland merry-go-round sequence when Travolta's son gets killed, and the way they make it a frickin' Hallmark movie. They go all the way. Gold filter on the lens, soft focus. I mean, just
slow motion. Yeah, it's
drive
great.
it home, right?
Yeah.
The no as he realizes his son is shot. The only thing that gave me trouble in that whole opening sequence was I'm like, what is up with the woolly booger mustache on Nick Cage? I just I know it was a nod to that John Woo was giving a nod to Chow Yun-fat and the Killers, or John Woo wasn't, but Cage was. He wanted to do the little
pencil mustache.
It actually looked like he had a woolly booger caterpillar on his upper lip, and it made him not look like a. See, I'm in the you know me, right? I live in the world of George, like in between the world of George Smiley and Patriot Games, right? So
right,
I like, I will go along on the John Woo fantastic action, the boat stuff that happens at the end of this movie, but when it gets into the sort of the way the actual characters are behaving within that world, I want sort of hyper realism,
right?
So
that it's so perfectly matched with the insanity of the story.
Insanity of the story and the action,
Well, Okay. Was that something that was bothering you in this movie? I mean, we talked about that in
There
Snake
were
Eyes,
there
and
were places where it bothered me, because I felt like I was totally down with some of the stuff, the whole idea of Nick Cage being this outrageous character. But where I had trouble was when he was an outrageous character in ways that would actually blow his own mission. Like the Hallelujah chorus sequence of him dressed as a Monsignor and squeezing the ass of the girl in the choir. I was like,
I've
what
been with
world
you
are
every step of the way until here because this is where I think this then becomes a John like this. That's where the rubber hits the road here. It becomes, it has to get a little extra. It has to get a little bit too much. To, yeah, I hear you.
But I was okay with it being too much in sequences like at the end in the church when everybody is in on that action and in that world. But he's out in public with
He's a psychopath. He's not a he's
but
not.
nobody notices. Nobody notices this Monsignor behaving like a psychotic in the middle of the
Well, they're busy. They're singing the Handel's Messiah.
Oh, okay, sorry.
They
Yeah.
can't stop the show.
Gotcha. Okay. But that's minor. These are minor points.
So you think that you accepted the craziness, but you needed a little more modulation on it.
A little modulation is like where and how it took place.
Mm.
Like I didn't have any trouble with the craziness when they were being crazy together. The
Right.
Well, we'll get to the Mexican standoff at the end because there's a long conversation to have about that. A good conversation.
Yeah.
I have nothing but there's just so much to unpack in that sequence.
Definitely there is. I mean, back to the Handel's Messiah, like to me that's when it gets truly like a comic book though. Like
Well, that's when I had to sit myself down and
Yeah.
say, "Hey, dude, just chill out and stop being a snob and sit back and enjoy this movie."
yeah. You could argue that a lot like Snake Eyes and a lot like De Palma's movies, to me, John Woo movies are not about their subject matters. They're about movies.
Okay, yeah, I'll buy that. Yeah.
They're just about making movies and about making visual things happen and having and blowing things up. Like and that's the art of it and the artistry of it, and it ends kind of there. I think, you can read deeper themes into it, and the concept here is kind of genius though. Like when you consider that they did entice two really interesting actors to play these two guys,
Yes.
and it really elevates it into like one of the great Evel Knievel acting stunts of all time.
Well, let me ask you a question about that because there was something I noticed that I thought Wu was doing, and I want to see if you thought the same thing and if I'm onto something. There are so many movies in which an actor plays two characters. One actor plays
Yeah.
right, and there were sequences in this movie in the sequences where they are together, which aren't there isn't a lot of time, but there are times when they are together in the same scene. And it seemed to me like that John Woo was making almost cinematically making fun of sequences we've seen in other movies where there was one actor playing two characters and they have to do those sort of awkward mirror shots, and they try to do a shot where the actor walks around himself, that where they walk around each other looking at each other. And it looked to me like he was almost referencing and making fun of those movies with this twist of I don't have one actor playing two characters. I have two actors
Mhm.
playing two characters, but they've switched.
Yeah.
But they're doing that same. Do you know what
They're
I'm
treating
saying?
it like it's they're
like it's a
treating it
special
like it would be.
effect.
Yeah, they're treating. You're absolutely right. That's really true.
And it
That's a,
wasn't a special effect. You
no.
had
It's
two
two
actors,
actors
yeah,
just
and
doing a
they're looking at
scene.
each other. But they treated it like, oh, now we're doing some weird
Yeah,
split screen
I
special
guess
effect.
and the reason I loved it, I guess I really thought it worked, and I didn't think of it as making fun, is because it somehow treating it that way really got into the psychology of what it would be like to look at yourself,
Yeah,
because that's what they're seeing.
yeah,
That's not what the audience, to them, they're in that hall of mirrors though,
yeah.
because
And we
they're,
weren't.
yeah, so it's a way to get into their heads about it. I love that scene, that kind of Lady from Shanghai ripoff, where they're in the round mirrored room, and he's shooting at the reflection of him,
Yeah,
and then they finally get to either side of the mirror, and they're looking at, and they know they're on the other side, but they're looking at their own reflection. Again, that interesting thing about what the eye sees, and commenting on that through the editing, just the way that De Palma was doing it in Snake Eyes. I mean, that's really interesting preoccupation with that
yeah.
in both these movies.
Another motif that I loved was the touching of the face. That motif that, and we see it first when he does it with his son before his son is killed. This thing of, it was like, I love you, I know who you are, and I touch your face. And that's identity, it's love, it's who you are, it's our connection with each other. And they wove that motif through the whole film. And then even the characters are doing it themselves. They touch their face, they put their hands over their faces and sort of feel who they are and their
Yeah,
connection to themselves.
yeah.
And I loved that motif, going through the whole film. uh
There really are, there are really interesting, touching moments, and like I
Touching
love.
moment. I got it. Yeah, I heard, see what you did there.
Yeah,
Touching
yeah,
moment.
yeah. It's a little. You always gotta pay attention to how I put things, because it's
Yeah.
usually pretty interesting, guys. Um, yeah, the tying the shoes. Like when Nicolas Cage's character, um, he's a psychopath, a total sociopath, and he seems to only have any real feelings for one person, and that's his little brother. He has a lot of, he like takes care of him. Everybody else he's really kind of horrible to, but Alessandro Nivola he takes care of, and he's a mess. The little brother's kind of a mess. He can't really dress himself. He's smart, but he's just kind of awkward. And he ties his shoe at the airport. I remember that. Nicolas
Yeah.
Cage ties his shoe, which comes back later in it. There is this interesting thread too when Nicolas Cage uh, kills Travolta's son accidentally. He has a really great reaction, because it's clear he's not really okay with what happens. Like, it wasn't intended to go that way,
Right.
and it sets up this little potential possibility that Castor Troy isn't 100% evil. That there's some part of him that's still human, and that pays off later too. I thought the movie's capable of subtle moments, which I thought was really crazy in the middle of this, pyrotechnical car show.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about the two leads.
Okay. I will say, I think John Travolta is a better Nick Cage than Nick Cage is.
I agree with you. I think Joan Travolta just rules this movie.
Yeah. And when he was playing Nick characters, Nick Cage's character, Nick character's Cage,
Yes.
I wanted to see that character when it was back to Nick Cage. I mean, he was so
He's great.
good.
He's having
as
so
that
much
character.
fun.
He's able to commit to that level of craziness.
Hmm.
The moment when he walks into the church before the Mexican standoff and does the Jesus pose and then drops his head to the side, and oh my God, I was having so much. None of it felt forced. It just felt like he was having a part. And I
Hmm.
guess, that's the thing, jumping back to Snake Eyes, is that both times when Nick Cage is being big, and I love it when people are big, but it feels like he's working so hard to be big instead of he's being big because he's free.
I understand.
Like, so it's like
Hey,
forced instead of
you,
I'm just letting it go.
hey, you pick your battles. I
Yeah.
tend to avoid, giving bad reviews to currently working actors who, who
It
are
is a
working
bad
hard to entertain me. I don't want to,
I know it's a bad thing. I could run into him. I could run into him at Adam's house, and he'd beat me up, and he'd be right.
I'm not suggesting you don't be honest, but I'm just saying, you're
Maybe
a brave
temperate,
man. You're a brave man. I
or an
think that,
idiot. I'm a brave man or an idiot.
well, I can happily say I enjoy them both in this movie. Travolta, to me, seems to be having the time of his life, though. Like, he
Yeah,
seems to be enjoying himself so much, and that carried over for me a lot. Like, I just kind of fell in love with his performance in this movie.
and his
And
dancing, when he does his dancing,
yeah,
it's just great.
well, I listened to an interview with him about the movie, and he made this really interesting point. He was talking about, I guess the interviewer was, the questions were cut out of the interview, so he was just kind of answering things. But I think the
Mhm.
question must have been like, well, you do a lot of action movies, and you do some of your own stunts and stuff. Is that hard? And he's like, I'm a dancer, and it's not like that's really easy for me. I can do, people give me action moves, and it's just like dancing. It's the same thing. It's all beats and moving your body, and so I'm very comfortable with guns and with running and jumping, and I'm like,
Yeah,
and you look at him, and it is effortless. Like, he has a way about him which is surprising, because he's kind of a he's not a giant of a dude, but he's a kind of a husky guy. Like, he's a big guy.
yeah.
You don't look at him and go, oh, he's going to be light on his feet.
No,
you
but
know
then he is.
he's incredibly light on his feet. Yeah, he's just great.
Yeah.
um and
He,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, yeah.
I mean, huh?
Sure. Sure.
um the pleasure, I mean, you know what it reminded me of a little bit. It was like the kind of stunt along the lines of when they did True West on Broadway, and Phil Hoffman switched off every night
Right.
with who did it? Who did
With
it with
another act. It was another actor.
It was another actor. I'm just terrible. I'm forgetting who he did it with. But yeah, and they
Somebody
switched
out
off.
there, somebody watching the show is Googling it for us right now and will let us know who did True West on Broadway.
John C. Reilly.
John C. Reilly.
Yeah, and him did it. That's who did
Yeah.
it.
Who I just always thought they were the same person, because I never, except for that show, you never saw them in the same room at the same time. So I always thought they were the same person anyway.
Right. But you also thought his name was John C., which it isn't.
John C. Reilly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, John C.
Hello, John C.
Yeah. The other people in the cast, Harve Presnell
Oh gosh,
is,
how much do we love Harve Presnell?
oh my God. Just that voice, that face, and that voice.
He's the sternest man, the sternest, most practical man that ever lived. If you don't know who we're talking about, Harve Presnell is the dad in Fargo,
Yeah.
who tries to help manage the money drop
Yeah.
and is very displeased.
Very
with how it
unhappy.
goes.
He's just spectacular. Nick Cassavetes
Nick Cassavetes, right?
just brought it home.
Doing
in this
great.
movie.
Just having a blast also.
Again, somebody who just looks like, I'm going to have fun. I'm going
Mhm.
to have a really good time making this movie. And
Yeah.
Gina Gershon,
Gina Gershon.
terrific. I am always so happy whenever I see Carrol Lynch,
Mm-hmm.
who, again, if you don't know who we're talking about, plays the husband in Fargo.
Yes, he does.
Yep.
And he plays the Zodiac Killer in Zodiac.
Right.
And many other great movies. He's a great actor, Carrol Lynch. Great. And this was an early work for him. It's so interesting to see him as a young guy. He was
A younger
he was
guy.
a kid,
Yeah. And somebody who I love in this movie, and I think this guy's underrated, and you see him all the time. Nobody will know James Denton, who plays one of the other FBI agents, and
Oh, I think I know who you're talking
he
about.
works an awful lot. He's always, he's a solid, plays doctor, cop, lawyer, good,
Works all the time. That
works
guy.
all the time, really good. Colm Fiore
Colm Feore
as
is always,
the
but miserably underused in this and almost
yeah,
everything that he's in that period. He's a
yeah.
brilliant actor. That guy. Oh my God, is he good?
And then Margaret Cho, who's good but is crapped on in this movie, just has nothing interesting. They don't give her anything interesting to do.
But she was. That was probably her. Was that she must have not been making
Probably
movies
early
for
on.
very
Yeah,
early for her.
early on for her.
Um,
We haven't mentioned the incredible Joan Allen,
the
who's
incredible, right?
a spectacular actor.
Nor have we mentioned the absolutely astounding CCH Pounder, who
Well, I was going to get to her because she's always phenomenal, but I had a question. She she just disappears, right? In this, I mean, I'm assuming she gets killed in the same sequence um that oh gosh, where did I put his name down somewhere, I thought. Um the the other um the other FBI agent who gets killed. Um oh, I didn't put his name down. Oh, I'm
was that
such a
Matt Ross.
um I'm not sure. The fellow who has one of my favorite lines. Oh, Robert Wisdom. Robert Wisdom, who has one of my favorite lines in the movie, which is at the beginning when they capture Nick Cage, and I thought this was a terrific inside joke. When they capture Nick Cage they're having the fight inside the airplane hangar, and Travolta hits the start button on the jet engine,
Yeah,
and it blasts Nick Cage down to the end of a chute and slams him up against the wall and
yeah,
knocks him out, and that's how they capture him. And Robert Wisdom looks and says, "Looks like Elvis done left the building." And that's such a great. It fits the circumstance, and it's also an inside Nick Cage joke.
yeah, yeah.
You know,
Because everybody knows Nick Cage is Elvis,
yeah.
of course. The great Chris Bauer, who I worked with, has a nice cameo in this movie.
Who is he?
He plays one of the Russian baddies in prison who tries to escape with
Oh, right.
Nick
Who
Cage.
they help each other. They try to
Yeah.
help each other in the escape. Right.
Again, very young looking. It's very
Yeah.
strange seeing all these people. And my old friend David Warshawski has a nice little scene in this as one of the bomb defusing experts. It's
Ah,
got a
nice.
couple lines.
I love the sequence in the prison with the Super Mario brother Mag Boots.
Yeah, yeah. Great addition. I wonder if that seems like something John Woo would have come up with and thrown in the script, but
Yeah.
who knows?
Well, there was a whole other script or sequence where the prisoners were kept upside down, like magnetized,
That would have
hooked
been
to the
great,
ceiling. But they didn't.
but their
They didn't
faces
end up.
fell off. So, um, yeah, wonderful, wonderful group of people. In the interview with Travolta, it sounded genuinely like he had a good time. And he, I think, worked with John Woo before, and came back to work with him again and said working with him was great. That it was really fun. He goes back to working in Hong Kong with the Shaw Brothers. Like he learned his stuff with the real deal wire work, and was making movies in Hong Kong for a long time before he came over here. So he had practiced all this action stuff more than anybody.
Well, there's some action. The boat sequence at the end.
The boat chase is probably the second best boat chase I've ever seen in a movie.
The sequence with the boat crashing through the other boat.
Wasn't that? Now that was a nice reference to Face Off, the face within the face.
Yes, and the boat comes crashing through the other boat.
It's pretty remarkable. And then the two speedboats crashing at the end of that chase, and the two stuntmen flying through the air
Flying through the
with the
air.
crash, actually, the explosion happening while they're flying through the air.
And
Come
it's real.
on.
Yeah.
That's a
And
real
also
thing.
the water skiing with no water skis, with they're just on your feet.
That, and not only your feet, but on another part of your body that looked uncomfortable. They call that a different thing in Norway. Um,
Yeah.
he that stuntman looked like he truly did some damage there.
Yeah, he went through it.
Um,
Um all right. Uh
none of it though to me outdoes. See, I think I could make a little complaint about it.
okay.
I think the best sequence, best action for me is up front. Is the stuff on the airplane and in the on the tarmac. The chasing the jet down the runway with the helicopters and the squad cars and then crashing into the thing. I mean that as a set piece, action set piece is pretty untoppable, and I
Yeah.
don't think they top it.
No, well, and actually, it's hard to top when you actually crash a real airplane into a real building and film it with 13
Yeah,
cameras.
they just did all of it, you know. They just did all of those things. Um, and you know, with Nick Cage hanging out the door of the airplane, you know, and like
Yeah,
smiling and waving and stuff. I mean, there's great stuff in that sequence.
yeah,
Um, but it's a pleasure.
it is. Can we go to can we talk about the Mexican standoff in the church,
Sure,
which is
sure. I
just
mean, I don't know. I don't know if these days we call it. That's what we call it. I think we call it just a standoff. But
well, actually, Studio Binder. I don't know if you subscribe to Studio Binder's little movie commentary clips.
I don't. I'm not in the industry. I don't know if you're
Yeah,
talking about the film industry. No,
yeah.
I
They
don't.
actually they actually say that there's a distinction between a standoff and a Mexican standoff.
Okay.
They say the standoff is just two evenly. They use standoff for like high noon, two guys facing each other in in the street, where the winner is going to be determined by wits and skill. And a Mexican standoff, they say, is when everything just has to stop because there's only two options: we put our weapons down, or we all die.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah, I know. My point was I
if
don't
we
know if
use the
it's
word
I don't
Mexican.
know if that's no if the let's get off the topic. I don't know any of it. You don't clearly.
We're going to be canceled.
I can't remember if I did read this or not, but that was a term that was potentially up for debate on whether it was
Pejorative.
appropriate or not. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I don't mean to put you on the spot with it. I just figured we might as well talk about it when it comes up since we're live on the air and
yeah.
that
You know who will straighten us out on it in 2 weeks when we do Firebirds.
yeah.
My friend Richard Soto, who's
Okay.
in Firebirds, will educate me on this. You clearly don't need education
Oh
on this
no, I'm just I don't
because
I do. I'm just I
but
don't
you
have a definitive answer.
you want education on it, but you're sensitive to it. I'm obviously insensitive and just talking out of my butt constantly.
Um I don't think we need to talk about butts or my sensitivity. I think we can just agree that we have things to learn and we can and will. We're
Okay,
committed to that.
particularly me. Um, so the standoff, we'll call it the uncomfortable standoff at the end of the movie in the church.
Yes. The uncomfortable
Difficult moment
crowded
in the
standoff.
crowded church.
Yeah, which is really, I will say, I think that is just like a Mexican restaurant. I don't think that is a
It's
church.
not a church.
I think that it's a Mexican restaurant on the
And it is
beach.
okay to call restaurants that serve Mexican food
If I think
Mexican
I
restaurants.
believe so. I
It's
think
still
if
yeah,
it is a place that serves Mexican food,
yeah.
then I would think
Um,
that's okay. I hope.
but that okay. So the the elephant in the room obviously is the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? Is there a reference? Is there any sort of line to be drawn between the good, the bad, and the ugly in this sequence?
Um, there probably is. There probably is. Which
Um,
sequence? Which one are you talking about? The boat chase, for sure. It's a better boat chase than in the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
no, the shootout at the end of the good, the
Hmm.
bad, and the ugly with Lee Van Cleef
Yeah,
and our our good friend Eli Wallach,
Eli Wallach and Mr. Clint.
Mr. Clint.
Yeah, I mean that is kind of the original
You know,
OG,
going
crowded
from the
standoff.
going from the wides to the weapon shots to the extreme close-ups of the eyes. I mean,
Yeah.
they do it, and then they do the bullets, which they couldn't do in the good, the bad, and the ugly, or they
No.
didn't. But they do I mean, they do it from but if you look at I love these kind of sequences, and I was watching this, and like I love these standoffs, right? And there's Reservoir Dogs
Yeah, well,
has
that's a
a
great one.
spectacular one. Wind River has a spectacular one. Um, uh, where they shoot it in a way that you don't know what is going on ever. It's like they shoot it in a way where you feel like this was incredibly shot, but it's shot in a way where it's really telling the story, and it's placing you everywhere so that no matter how complicated the action gets, you can follow all of it.
Uh huh.
And in Wind River, they shoot it in a way where you feel like you're in the shootout and you're sitting there going, what is happening? Where is why is,
I have to see Wind River. I haven't seen it.
you've never seen it? Oh my
No.
God. It has a shootout that doesn't happen, and then a shootout that does happen. And they're both the way they are both shot is spectacular.
Did you see Appaloosa?
Yeah, well, yeah, I think we might have seen it together, and it has one of our favorite lines in it,
Yeah. Yeah.
or favorite line pieces of dialogue
Yeah.
after the shootout.
Yeah. That
When
guy can
when
shoot.
no, but there's the moment where after the shootout where Viggo Mortensen says it happened so fast, and Ed Harris says everybody could shoot.
Everybody can shoot. That's right.
Yeah.
Great shootouts in that movie.
Yeah. But it does happen fast. And another great shootout, very different from anything in this, not a standoff, but just a shootout, is the shootout in Tombstone.
Oh, Tombstone's got
The
great,
shootout at the
great
OK
shootout.
Corral.
Yeah. Yeah. And, that is great. It's great. And of course, in the original, the John Ford OK Corral movie, that's a pretty great shootout too
Yeah.
in the original.
John Ford made some good movies.
Not bad with the horses and the guns and the running around. Yeah. Um, Also, I gotta say, because it's strangely to me like uh, it's probably one of the most famous action movies ever made, but it's a sequence that doesn't get as much love as other sequences in it. And it's a shame because I think it's literally one of the best shootouts ever, and it's in Raiders of the Lost Ark, the first one in the bar.
Oh yeah, that's great.
I mean, it's so well staged, and the sound work on it is probably my favorite sound work on any gunfight. Freaking fantastic.
All right, so I have a question for you.
Yes.
There's a shot in this movie which I believe is an homage, and I want to know if it's an homage to, and you'll know the shot when I say it. Is it an homage to the Frankenstein movies, or is it an homage to Jason, or is it both?
What's the shot?
The shot of Nick Cage when we think he's in a coma, he's lying
Oh,
there
and he sits up.
with no face, and they do the great Halloween the dead guy
Yeah.
sitting up,
Yeah.
like just coming straight up.
I would think that's probably. I
Or
mean, I
maybe
don't.
it's a reference to Halloween, which was a reference to Frankenstein, or maybe they're both references to Frankenstein.
Um. Yeah, I've never heard Carpenter talk about referencing Frankenstein in that moment, although it is a very Frankenstein-y moment, or actually more like the Mummy than Frankenstein.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I
You
get that.
know. Um.
Right?
But I would bet that John Woo would be referencing Carpenter there.
Yeah.
I would guess, but no, that's a good. That was it. That's a good call. And I I kind of liked how they ended up. I wanted to see the face. I was sorry we didn't get to see Nick Cage's
No face.
skull face.
Yeah, but we see it a little bit, but not
He
enough.
pulls kind of a Hitchcock moment where we see it in the reflected in the glasses of the surgeon that they bring
Yeah.
in out of the middle of the night to do it. But I really thought that this movie would have been a perfect. It would have been totally acceptable to have an incredibly terrifying gore like movie effect with his face.
There could have been a scene where before he kills the people he kills, or before he forces them to do this stuff to him, he
Yeah.
is having a moment looking
Yeah.
at them with a faceless. You know that Nick Cage apparently he could not stomach the make. They had to cover every reflective surface so that he didn't want to see himself that way.
What are you talking about? What
He
way?
didn't want to see the blood faceless makeup on himself.
Oh, really?
He was not. It was not okay. So John Woo they had to cover all
Oh,
reflective
interesting.
surfaces so that he wouldn't see it.
That's it. Like for real, he didn't like it. Like
Yeah.
he was just uncomfortable
Yeah.
about it.
Whereas I would have been like, dude, let me see this.
Well, honestly, that's interesting because that's not the first story I've heard about it, which makes me about that kind of thing, which makes me think that maybe it's worse than you think. Like maybe you really don't, because I heard who was it? It was for American Werewolf in London.
Griffin Dunn.
Griffin
When he had
Dunn
his
was interviewed.
face mashed off.
Yeah, I mean,
torn
he
off.
has his face just totally half of it torn off, and the character comes back to life, but is all destroyed and scary looking, and then he rots through the rest of the movie. He just
Yeah.
decomposes, so he looks like a mess. And he talked about, I mean, you'd think it'd be like, oh, that'd be really fun to do the makeup and all that stuff, but he said he was depressed for a week. Like looking at himself as a corpse really, really messed
Really
him up.
bummed him out. Huh.
Like
Interesting.
depressed him badly. Like he really couldn't shake it. So maybe it's no fun.
Well, I hope I get the opportunity to.
I would love to be that depressed.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
Now you brought something up last week that you said you think should be, or the week before, that you said you think should be part of the show. And I agree. So I thought about it, and I came up with another idea for something that should be part of the show. every week.
okay.
Yeah. So you came up with the pairing. What
Yeah.
is the pairing for the movie? And I came up with something that I think would be a good pairing with this movie.
Oh, good.
And see if you agree.
What's your how would you pair it? What would be your double bill?
My double bill with this would be Strangers on a Train.
Very good. Very, very good
I
choice.
think that would be fun. Crisscross.
Well, there's, I think what we just talked about, the reflection of the face in the doctor's glasses, that's from Strangers on a Train. There's a lot of references to that movie in here, I have a feeling.
Oh, I didn't know that. See, and I have a guess as to which your pairing would be with this, because I spent a lot of time thinking about what movie you would pair with this.
Yeah?
And what I came up with, that I'm pretty sure if you have it written down on a piece of paper and you open it up, it's going to say Freaky Friday. Right?
No, that is not that you were mistaken about that, but that's actually a really, really good idea.
That would be fun to bear with
It
this.
actually really would. It's better than my choice because my choice is just not as fun. It's just more cerebrally fun.
What's your choice?
Eyes Without a Face. It's a
It's a song.
it is a song, and the song was based on the movie. They wrote the song for the as a love letter to this movie. It's a French new wave film that is about a mad kind of a mad doctor who has a daughter who has a disfigured face, and he's secretly working on making a face for her, and things don't go well at all.
Really hard to believe.
Yeah, no, they don't. They don't go well.
But then I came up with a thing that I think we should do every week, which is a very silly moment. Like
okay.
what moment in the movie just
silly? It's just silly.
Doesn't work. They tried. It was a good try.
And let's face it, every movie, pretty much almost every movie has one.
Yeah. The very silly moment in this movie is when the character of Archer, who on the inside is John Travolta, but at this moment is being played by Nick Cage,
Yeah.
wakes up in bed and Gina Gershon is there and he is surprised.
Mm-hmm.
And Nick Cage's eyes got CGI big. Like his wide eyes at surprise was like almost like out of the Little Rascals. It was almost a little Rascals moment of surprise. If he'd been wearing a bow tie, it would have spun around. If he'd been wearing a beanie, the propeller would have been spinning. It was a whole.
His bowler hat would have flown off his head.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, and I burst out laughing and rewound it.
That is
I could
great.
watch it a couple of times.
That is really good. I'm gonna say, okay, let me think of what I would pick as mine.
Your very silly moment.
I think the silliest moment for me is actually it is a line of dialogue. It's a moment from the movie. Right before the surgery happens, they're prepping everybody for surgery to get these faces swapped out. And before they put John Travolta under the gas so that he's not awake for the face-off part of the movie,
which is good.
The doctor reassures him by saying, in terrible ADR, like the worst. This was not even an actor in the movie.
I don't remember the line, but I remember the ADR.
He says, "Look, holding the transplant face." He says, "This is not a replica. This is the real thing."
Oh my God!
So I love that.
Other lines that need a nod. Hate to see you go, but I love to watch you leave. It's sexist. It's not okay to say anymore, but it works in the movie.
Yeah. Well, it's said by a bad guy, right?
A bad guy.
So,
and another line that the bad guy says is lies, mistrust. This is turning into a real marriage. Yeah. And then the line, my least favorite line in the movie was home. When Nick Cage, playing John Travolta, playing Archer, playing the good guy, walks into his real home.
Yes.
And he says, home.
Yeah.
He's like, no, I don't.
We get it.
I don't believe you. I don't believe you.
You didn't need to say it. You're home. We see you. You look happy. That's fine.
Yeah.
I did love, not a verbal moment, but I did love the fact that we have a nice close of him drinking a Pepsi, like through a straw right before he shoots the kid in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
I love that little detail. And I loved his golden dragon money clip and the box of goodies that they always
the
handed.
Box of goodies and the guns, the two guns that he has in back, a la El Mariachi, right? Is that
I'm gonna say this actually comes from like Woo's earlier movies, and that Mariachi stole it from John Woo.
Right, but it's the same thing, right? El
Yeah.
Mariachi was after this, but
Yeah, I mean, Woo was famous for the two guns, two fists in the guns, and shooting sideways while you're flying through the air. That was
well,
his
that's what
contribution.
you do, because if you're shooting two guns in the same direction, if you're
Yeah,
not shooting straight in front of you,
yeah.
if you shoot to the side, two
You
guns,
move, you can
the
fly.
force flies you in the other direction. It's everybody knows that.
I just love that John Woo wants just things moving around so much in his movies that he just has people flying through the air with no. They didn't. Did we see them jump? They have no particular aim of. They're not going anywhere.
Right.
We
You're
cut
just
to them
flying.
later, and they're like, then they slide into a shot.
Yeah.
The Doves, man. I mean,
Oh.
the Doves thing is such a classic of the time. I think John Woo may have started it, but it was in every music video ever made in the 90s. So I don't know
This is
what
what
came
it
first.
sounds like when doves cry.
Yeah, it was
Definitely.
very Prince.
Yeah.
Maybe he stole it from Prince.
The shot of Archer, of Cage, Nick Cage as Archer, good guy, coming out of the ocean
Great.
with the Latin playing underneath, the Latin Nomini Domini Patri.
Yes.
Very great iconography in these sequences.
And when you start picking apart anything about the movie, that's when I just want to refer you to, like, yes, we cut to him walking up a beach to a funeral,
Yeah.
which is more like a goth wedding. I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of like
It's great. It is. I would watch this movie again. 2 hours and 20 minutes, and I would watch it again. It flew by.
I gotcha. I'm gonna say something probably that would surprise you. I think I'm more in on Snake Eyes.
Yeah. Okay.
I'd probably watch that again before I'd watch this again. But that being said, if you want to test out your television, rent this one.
But are you proud of me that I came with it?
I'm
That I got on
delighted.
board?
I'm totally delighted that you gave it a shot and that you got something out of it. Yeah, I mean, do you think that's based? Do you think that's based on, like, really kind of like a kind of movie you wouldn't normally give the time of day, but because of last week, saying, well, let me try to see if this can work in a different way for me, or was this just a better movie for you? Maybe that's it.
I think it's based on the education that you gave me last week.
That's what I was hoping. That's where I was hoping this would go. I'm glad you said it.
Yeah. You educated me. I learned something.
I can end this evening. I'm so happy right now. I don't know what to say.
Well, next week we conclude our cage fight with Firebirds, 1990s Firebirds, with Cage, Tommy Lee Jones, and Sean Young. And all you really have to say about Sean Young is Sean Young.
Yep, it's a movie she's in, and she's in it.
And my buddy Richard Soto is in it.
Is Richard Soto going to talk to us?
He's going to try. He's in rehearsal right now for A Christmas Carol down at South Coast Repertory, in which he's one of the ghosts of, I'm not sure which one, but I think he's one of the ghosts.
Do
I might be wrong.
Do you believe any of that? Do you believe any of this? You believe that?
That he's in the show?
Yeah, I mean, is this something he's just like, I'm in rehearsal for?
No, he's actually in the show. They do
Okay.
A Christmas Carol at South Coast Rep every year. It's a big,
Okay.
big money maker for them. And they haven't been able to do it for, and Hal Landon Jr., wonderful actor who has played Scrooge at South Coast Rep for something like 35 years.
Yeah.
Has retired, and now Richard Doyle, another wonderful actor and founding company member at South Coast Rep, is taking over the annual Ebenezer Scrooge role. But it's a terrific show. Bring the whole family.
I try to catch it at least twice every Christmas. Any production of that show.
And if you can't get to South Coast Rep, then watch the Watch the old movie with the British,
Alistair Sim.
the Alistair Sim, which is a spectacular movie. But so that's what we're doing next. Not, I'm sorry, we are not do. Yes, we are doing that. We're not doing it next week because next week on Thursday something's going on. Um, there's something. Oh yeah, people are eating turkey next Thursday.
So we're not going to do it Wednesday. Our show's on a
Oh, our
Wednesday,
show's
though.
on Wednesday.
Yeah. Tonight's a Wednesday.
Tonight
We've
is
always
Wednesday.
done our show on a Wednesday.
Are we doing it? But I thought we said we were going to skip next week because people would be like doing
Uninterested in what we had to
uninterested in
say
what we
at
had
a
to say
time
the
of,
night before
of
the turkey.
importance. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Um,
I don't know. Here, you can think of it this in two ways. I feel like we're the kind of show that's there for the person that doesn't want to go home for the
that
holidays,
doesn't want to
but
go
has
home
to
for
be
the
there
holidays.
and give them some laughs and something to distract them from, what can be a very sad time for people. Let's face it.
Right.
I mean,
Okay.
I love it, but sometimes people need a break from some kind of a holiday thing.
Right. Well, we did draw up a lineup, and I'm looking at it. I'm opening it up on my computer right now. If it'll open, so that we can see what it says, and um, it does say November 24th, which is the day we're talking about.
Yes.
That we're doing Firebirds.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to see that I wasn't the crazy person here.
Well, you are a crazy person, but
Whoa.
no.
Hey
But
now.
here's the thing: I may not be in this studio because I'm going somewhere for Thanksgiving. So I may be doing it from a bedroom at a friend's house. The sound might not be as spectacular,
I
but
mean,
who
if you
cares?
don't want to do it, we
I
don't
do
have
want to.
to.
No, I do want to do it.
I'll pro-
Damn it, we're doing Firebirds next week.
I think I'll be up at mom's.
Oh, hi, Mom. You
So
know what I'll
I'll
bet? I will bet you money she's watching right now. So I'm going to say, hi, Mom.
I'm gonna
Love
say the
you.
same thing. Love you,
Miss
mom.
you.
I hope you're enjoying the show.
Um,
And hopefully you'll be okay that you won't be upset that I do the show Wednesday night before Thanksgiving from your
yeah,
house.
yeah. There we go. Oh, so we'll both be in weird places. That's awesome.
Wow, weird
Not
places. It's
weird
mom's
places.
house.
A weird place to,
She's listening. Why do you say that?
oh gosh, I'm in so much trouble. Oh, I'm not getting any pie this year. Um, all right. Well, that's great. Next week, Firebird,
Yeah, never seen
Nicolas
it. Looking
Cage, Tommy
forward.
Lee Jones, Sean Young, and the great Richard Soto. Subscribe to our channel. Watch watch the podcast. Listen to
Yes.
the YouTube
Do
show.
all of those things. Use whatever eyes, ears, whatever you want to enjoy it. Listen, watch. And if you like it and you have the time and you're so inclined, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, or
Yeah,
or give
and
us
tell your friends.
a 5-star rating maybe, or
Yeah,
4, or
yeah,
something. To be honest,
and tell your friends to watch the darn show.
we would certainly appreciate it because that helps a lot.
And
So
we'll see you all. We'll see you all next week.
yeah,
All right. Good night.
good night.